9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Wrestling Facts, the Huge Pop Entertainment. Drop the mic. Huge Pop ENT is the podcast that pulls no punches and cuts through the political garbage of the indie wrestling scene. But tonight, we are joined by a man who refuses to sugarcoat reality. He is an independent promoter, a brutal in-ring competitor, the mastermind head coach behind Rize'N'CR8 Body Training, and the undisputed CEO of Rize'N'CR8 Professional Wrestling. Love him or hate him, as the fans do. You cannot ignore. He is the most infectious, unapologetic force in the business today. Get ready, because the doctor is in the house and he's ready to deliver a massive dose of reality. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hot seat, Mr. Steven, the Truth Douché, STD, is in the building.
Oh, thank you, sir. Hey, I appreciate that intro. That was great, man. That was butter. But yes, it is me, Steven, the Truth Douché, your STD. Live doing it here with you. First and foremost, I gotta say, your shoot name, sir, is Scott Rogers, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So my shoot name is Joe Rogers. So this is going to be great. Although you do spell it wrong, I take the D out, but that's all right. But we got two Rogers in the building.
All right, there's two Rogers in it, and there's all right. Right. They call me the pod guy on behind the mic, and they call you the STD. So this will get really good real fast.
That's perfect, man. It's an honor to be here, so I appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show, and thank you again. Like I said prior to coming having you on, I appreciate you guys in the indie scene and in the legends as well, because as much as everything, you guys you put your hearts on the line, your bodies on the line every single day you go in that ring, and you do it for the fans. You do it for the fans, and for me, not only do I love watching the sport of wrestling, I love talking to you guys, and you guys are like my self-care in my world of what I do. So I appreciate everything that you do. Man, I thank you for that.
No, I totally understand, and thank you. You know, it doesn't happen with everybody combined, whether it's the fans, the promoters, the wrestlers. You know, it takes everybody. It's a system, and I've loved it since the day I was born. So here I am getting it done. But no, I really appreciate that. Like I said, everybody involved for sure.
Absolutely. So let's get down to the nitty gritty of when Steven, STD, Joey Rogers was a kid.
Yes.
Growing up, did you love, hate wrestling? And tell me what about as a kid growing up for you.
I could tell you, like, for example, I remember one of my earliest memories. I was about 3 years old, sitting on my dad's lap, eating some popcorn. And I specifically remember Roddy Piper on the TV. It had to be during, that rock and wrestling era, maybe around or close to WrestleMania 1. I don't know. I would have been like 1 or 2. But I specifically remember that. My mom was in the kitchen and she was talking smack about him. And back then, my family didn't watch wrestling at all. Matter of fact, nobody really likes it at all, except for me. So, but I do remember that specifically, and I don't know why. But I think I was just kind of pulled into it, as we are, right? Can't even really explain it. We just are. So that's my earliest memory. But when I actually started watching wrestling continuously without any gaps, I was about 7 years old. And I just gotten out of the pool. It was a Sunday afternoon. I remember this really well for some reason also. But I'm sitting there drying off in the living room. The TV's on randomly. All American Wrestling, WWF at the time, came on around noon on Sundays where I lived. And it was a jobber match. Sergeant Slaughter was putting somebody in the clutch, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And it's weird too, because it's like, even as a kid all the way till now, like I'm not really into a lot of sports. I'm not really into. I mean, I did have a UFC phase for a while, but I'm not really into fighting. So any combination of anything, I'm not really sure why I gravitated towards wrestling, with the exception of the fact it must have been something to do with the characters, the pomp and circumstance and that entrance. All that I think is what really started me into it. And then it was pretty obvious, hey, it might be at work, and so, that was good too, because I think if they were really fighting, I wouldn't have been drawn into it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, did you have any wrestlers that paved the way for you that you followed and said, "Yeah, I got to watch this guy on Saturday or Sunday"?
I did. So immediately I was a big Bret Hart guy. The thing about that too is randomly I actually met him in 2011. But I've been a Bret Hart guy since I was like 7 years old, So it was 2011. I was at Monday Night Raw with my buddy. We're first row, random once again. Had a few beers in me, having a good time. I was all over TV that night. Don't know why. They kept showing me, and I was clapping and wooing and having a good time. But Bret Hart was there, the Hitman, randomly in Portland, Oregon, 2011. You can look it up. I don't remember the month, but randomly was there. Had tickets. Me and my buddy, front row. At the end of the show, Bret is going around the ring, slapping hands. All the kids rushed up there, and I was like, I don't even know how these kids know him, but that's cool. And I literally was like, oh well, he's my guy, right? I'm not even really like huge on anyone else except for him, right? But here I am as an adult. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm running over and squishing in with the kids, right? And Bret comes along and, puts his hand out, and we didn't just slap hands, like we shook hands. And it was almost emotional because, as a kid, God, I don't know, all the way until now, like, wrestling is something that gives us that outlet. It gives us something that sometimes it saves us. I don't really know how else to explain it, but wrestling, I think, saved my life when I had down times, really bad traumatized times. What pulled me out of that was I knew wrestling was on, and I always said, when I grow up, I'm going to go do that. Yeah. So, no matter what life was giving me at the time, I knew I could fall back on wrestling. And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm here now, is because I want to give back to some kid that needs it. I want to give back to anyone that gets drawn into it and gets immersed in what we do, because I know how much it helped me and saved me. And so when we locked hands, me and old Bret, I looked him square in the eye and I said, thank you. And I went to turn away, and he didn't let go of my hand. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I turned around and he pulls me in, and he looks me in the eye and he goes, no, thank you. And I was like, oh, I mean, literally, like, I almost get emotional talking about it, because that meant a lot. He wasn't doing that with anyone else, but he probably saw him rushing up there with the kids and probably thought, oh, I'm of the generation where he was around. But it was awesome, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, no, perfect story. Yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool. I've met, oh God, a ton of guys in this business, but I could tell you, like I said, if there's anyone that actually really meant something to me by a one experience, it would be that one right there.
Absolutely, 100%. No, I get those experiences. I was at River City WrestleCon 2 years ago, and I walking around. Here's Jimmy Hart with his microphone, sitting on his stool, nobody there, nobody around him. So I walked up and I introduced myself, and just the stuff that he would say: keep going, keep it up, don't give up. We didn't never give up. Keep it going, and it's just hearing those stories. It's not about a picture. It's not about, what I'm saying? It's about the conversation, and that. So that was pretty cool. So I get what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes. I mean, speaking of which, like, we were at WrestleCon in Vegas this past WrestleMania. And, once again, it's like you're meeting all your childhood stars, and that's all awesome. But there were so many weird experiences that happened, things that you wouldn't even think about, but all of a sudden they were taking place. Just random stuff too. Like, I spent a lot of time with Perry Saturn. He was pretty cool when I was growing up, wasn't like one of the huge guys I was
Right.
gravitated to. But spending time with Saturn was awesome, man. He's a kick-ass dude. I can't say enough good things about him. You know, we had lunch a couple times together. Every day at the con when we get there, you know, we'd meet up. He's got some bad health issues, so I was trying to help him with that. You know, running around making sure he was comfortable and getting everything for him. And top notch dude. Can't say enough about it. Also, Tony Schiavone, same. Just a lot of random stories. I helped JBL find Ron Simmons when he got there. You know, I showed Bobby Lashley how to work the bathroom paper towels. Like he was stuck, he couldn't get. It was so random, dude. But we had like 3 or 4 days together of, you know, all these legends. I ate lunch next to Earl Hebner and the Warlord. I was able to talk to him for about 20 minutes. But you know, talking to Flair was amazing. Giving Nash the too sweet, like that kind of stuff was great. But we were actually there on business. You know, I was there with Rize'N'CR8 as a booth, as STD, as a wrestler. I went there with the Golden Standard, Natural Born, Cody Dreamheart, which is the first guy that I've trained out of the Rize'N'CR8 professional wrestling training camp. He's out there killing it right now. We'll talk about him probably here in a minute. But I was there with him. He's my buddy and arch nemesis. And but yeah, you know, we're going around literally meeting everybody, shaking their hands, marketing everyone. You know, you got to have your shirt on, right? Had all the merch. We're signing autographs for the kids. It was great. But yeah, you know, just random stories. And once again, one of those epic experiences. If anybody can go to a WrestleCon, I suggest it. And having the booth was great because, you know, you had some time to talk to everybody, get to know them. Gosh, man, there were so many people. Tomiko, you know, ran out of the bloodline. He was a really cool dude. We just spent some time with some good people. But yeah, and you know, speaking of Too Sweet and WrestleCon, so the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows,
Yep.
they had mentioned me on Talking Shop, and I can't remember. I think it was episode 88 or something like that. But it was in the 80s. But and my buddy had told me because I don't listen to all of them. But they tossed me out there, and they're, you know, talking about the STD and you know, and how cool that was. But they thought my name was Steven the Truth Douche, which is hilarious. So it made for a good story because when I went up and introduced them, you know, I'm just like, hey man, STD. And you know, Gallows was awesome dude. We talked for about a half hour and you know, he really liked the name and I appreciated him shouting me out on Talking Shop. But yeah, good dudes, man. Can't say enough good things about them either. It was literally too sweet, so it was a good experience. But
absolutely. So that brings me to that next question. You know that you probably get asked this all the time, and I'm going to just wrinkle it into 2 different questions. You know, we talk about in the world of business of professional wrestling, we talk about in the locker room and paying your dues and paying it forward. And I think if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, you just explained to me what brotherhood is like in the business. When you walk into these conventions, you went and helped Ron Simmons, you went and, you know, met up with these guys. And to me, that's a great example of you paying it forward or paying it back or paying your dues or brotherhood and all. Is that close to being what it is?
oh yeah, for sure. The camaraderie is it's irreplaceable. The only thing I could link it to would be probably being in the military, which I never have been. But of course, much respect to anybody that has, because you know that they have that same kind of brotherhood, camaraderie, and all those things. Or being on a sports team. Like I said, never really played sports, but I totally understand. You know, it's you guys against the world. Those are your brothers out there. And so in wrestling, you know, we literally have the same thing. You know, that's one of the things that we teach. You know, is kind of, you're on the same team, but at the same time you're by yourself. You know, so you have to be able to do both things there. But you know, yeah, man. I mean, I had the Rize'N'CR8 professional wrestling training camp. That's a 12-week course. That is currently on hold. We're finding a new facility, but you know, in the meantime, we're going to start promoting shows. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, things are awesome right now. But yeah,
Awesome.
all kinds of things we could go into from there.
People call you a lot of things. But
Yes, they do.
But you strictly go by Steven the Truth Douché.
Yeah.
Or some would say douche.
Yes, sir.
Where does that persona come from, and why do you embrace the initials STD?
So the STD thing, I went to school for marketing. It's a very marketable thing. It's very familiar. It's very recognizable. It's very memorable. I've had, guys like John Morrison, literally be like, dude, that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And I think it goes down to, and then once again, that's why Gallows and Anderson threw me out there, because they liked the name. So I wanted something that could pop everybody and be memorable. You go home after the show as a fan, and if you're not someone that was remembered, you're not doing your job right. As a fan, you go to the show, you go home, you're gonna think about who you liked, who you didn't like. If you're someone that's not thought about, no good, right? So like being a heel, it's definitely something that you got to get your game down, man. You got to go in there. It's game time, and have fun and love it, but at the same time, do the absolute best you can and try and get it to where these kids, these parents, these adults, everybody goes home and remembers you, looks you up on social media, adds you, looks for your videos, checks everything out that you're doing. That's where we're at. That's what I teach my guys. Is we're big on marketing. When you go through our 12-week course, I make sure that when you're done, your character is completely flushed. It's ready to go. We make in-house theme music. We get your merchandise made. We get you a hand sign, a logo, to where you can hit the ground running and be able to be marketable. And I'm sorry, Scott, what was your question? I'm going out in the weeds, brother.
No, you're good. I just, where does the persona of STD come from?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So once again, it goes back to like when I was about 3 or 4 years old, wrestling with my dad. He would kind of mess around with me and teach me some stuff. But I remember I don't know why, I would back up in the hallway about 4 years old, and I would yell, "And in this corner, Steve." And then I would run at him and attack him, right? My dad was like on his knees and we're playing. And I remember doing that. And I have no idea why I did that. And of course, Dad remembers that, so he brings it up. And so when I started, I kind of wanted to throw in the name Steve as a throwback to that, as a little Easter egg of my life. And ended up being Steven, but because that's a little more hateable for some reason. And so that's where the Steven comes in, and then the STD comes in because it's marketable. Okay. So very far away from the shoot name, I must say. And Rogers is pretty good too. I refereed at a show, and they were announcing the refs as they came out for some reason. He goes, "What's your name?" I said, "Joe Rogers." He goes, "No, your shoot name." I'm like, "Yeah, Joe Rogers." Like, dude, that's awesome. I'm like, okay, nice. Maybe it should have been that. I don't know, whatever.
Nice. So in their name, it's the truth. So what would be the hardest truth that you would share with fans and people getting into business that you've learned so far since you've been in the business?
God, that's a good question. I'll tell you, this isn't for everybody. A lot of people try it out, end up, the truth that hits them is, when they start taking bumps, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. That's fine. We'd have open houses where we would showcase a match, people that are going through the camp. And then also, we'd have 2 or 3 hours where for free they could get in. I teach them how to bump, run the ropes, whatever. See if it's right for you. Because, it's fine. It's definitely not for everybody. Most people cannot do what we do. And it's not just physical. Let me tell you, it's mostly mental. You got to think about what you did, what you're doing, what you're going to do. Try to remember what you're supposed to remember, being able to communicate, and always be also working the crowd, being in character, making sure you got the right face on for what you're doing, being safe above all. And, so be able to teach like 7 things at once. Not everybody can do that in their mind mentally. And it doesn't always have to be a certain way, of course, but just saying, once again, not for everybody. That is a hard truth. But yeah, man, it's a hard business. There's roughly at any given time, like 3,000 independent, or I'm sorry, not independent, but just 3,000 wrestlers at any given point in time in North America. How many of those people are actually making a living off of wrestling? I honestly don't know. I'm just saying it's something to think about. Like the odds of you making it when you start, I make sure and be truthful about that right out of the gate. Like we don't make any promises like you're not going to WWE just because you went through the camp. I mean, to be honest, like for us, let me just hit it to you like this. For example, I talk to Tyler Breeze not often, but we are in communication. I trained at Flatbacks in Florida with him and Sean Spears, and I got a lot of training from Colton Gunn, and Mercedes Monet was there a couple days, so we had a match with her and had a great time. Actually went through that camp twice, so we're talking like 160 hours together. So I talked to Breezy from time to time, and I spent a couple days in Florida with Gabe Sapolsky. For those that don't know who he is, he's the guy that does the head scouting at NXT. He's right below Shawn Michaels. So man, I picked his brain hard, asking him all kinds of things. Not because I knew I was going to open a training camp, because honestly, I had no idea that would actually happen. But I just want to know. I'm like, what are you guys looking for? Am I too old? Am I not tall enough? But I mean, realistically nowadays, yeah, I'm like 6'1", 200 pounds. But 20 years ago, when I was 20, you know what I mean? Wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And back then I was probably 150 soaking wet. And so, he kind of laid it out, because right before Triple H took over, 2002, 2022, 2023, around that time, right before Vince left, there was a mandate. You had to be like, I think it was 26 and younger, 6'1", 220 was the cutoff. So Gabe was telling me, the NXT stuff about that, or I'm sorry, Performance Center. And so, but when I spent time with Gabe, the first time was in 2024, and things had changed. So he was making sure everybody knew, like, hey, look, the doors are wide open. With H running the ship, you can be any size, any weight, any shape, any color, any creed, any sex. If you have talent, you will be looked at and scouted. And Gabe said there's literally a file on every single worker out there in existence, because they need to be ahead of the curve. They need to know who's who, before AEW snatches them up, or MLW, TNA, whatever the case, Japan. So if you have talent, you have a good chance to go somewhere. That being said, there's a ton of talented people that will never be able to go anywhere. A lot of what this business is, talking about hard truths, the number one thing I'd probably say is it's all about who you know. And then I would rephrase that to, like DDP says, it's all about who's willing to say they know you and then stick their neck out for you. So, for example, me and Breeze, which, is a trainer at NXT, for those that don't know, he said, hey, if you got anybody that needs to be looked at, send them my way. Okay. I'm paraphrasing, but so basically it's like, if I have somebody go through my camp and I know, unfortunately, heartfelt, that they're not amazing, I'm not going to say, hey, Breezy, take a look at this guy. That's not going to work. But, so I'm very truthful right up front. Like, I have a direct link to get you looked at. However, that doesn't mean you're going to go anywhere. Like, my God, when I was in Florida, I'll give you an example. There was a college football player, and I'm not knocking this. He just didn't know. He had picked up, sold his house, him and his wife and the kids moved to Florida to go through Flatbacks, because he said, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. I'm going to go through this camp. So he just thought he was going to be signed. And I don't think he ever was. And also I was in the same camp with, oh gosh, what's his name? He's in on SmackDown now. Trick Williams. I was in the camp with his brother. And I didn't even know who Trick was, but he was sitting next to me for a couple hours, and we're shooting the shit back and forth. And all of a sudden, I just kept thinking, man, I recognize this guy. He's got to be somebody. He was there to watch his brother. And I don't know if anything came of that. But also his brother was a huge college football star. Awesome dude. Had a good time together. I honestly can't remember his name. I was in 2024. But once again, the idea and the thought there was, and it's not a knock on him, but he really thought, I'm going to go through this camp and then I'm going to be signed, and that just is basically what he said through talking to him. And I don't know if he ever was, once again. And then there's some other guys from that camp that I'm still in contact today, and they're out there working the indies, and that's awesome. So, I don't know, man, like those are the hard truths. It's not for everybody.
Right.
There's a very low chance of you actually making it. But that's not a knock. That's not saying you can't. I say, if this is your dream, let's do this, let's do it. But you got to put everything into it. And, putting it all on the line. And that's really what it's about. If you want to be a weekend warrior, just wrestle in Indy a couple times a month, that's fine. We can get you there. But if you really want to be the best in the world, I can try and help you the best I can to get you there for that as well. So, that's kind of the thing. The hard truths at the beginning.
Awesome. I got to get my boy Adrian Whisper from XIW Extreme Impact Wrestling out of Panama City, Florida. He says, "Who's in the house? It's the gangster and the destruction." So you know it's going down.
Nice.
XIW Extreme Impact Wrestling, man. If you want to check them out, they run a show every other month. Solid guys. They have guys from Florida. One of the guys from Florida is Jackson Slade. They also have Damian Wayne, who's not there anymore, but he's there. Salazar, he travels all over the place. Some big indie guys there, so check them out. So before we get into your buddy Cody and stuff like that, Rize'N'CR8, is that like the rebranding of, I guess you had a promotion called DCW? Is that how that evolved?
Yeah. So the story on that, matter of fact, when you and I were in contact, the whole base of this conversation was going to be around this new promotion and the shows we got booked and the talent we got booked and the matches, because we went that far with it. And then unfortunately, and I won't get into the weeds on this, my business partners decided to just take it away. And that's unfortunate because I spent 100 hours on it, and my name and reputation and everything. And so Rize'N'CR8, the business, the LLC, was still around, so I just reverted everything back to it. And that's everything. That's the website, that's your life, that's the advertising around town. Like, we're even putting out flyers. Like, things were escalating, like this was going to happen. And then I had to get a hold of everybody and say, hey brother, sorry, this take away this booking because we can't do the show. The money's gone. I partnered with these people because they were the money and the fans, and they wanted to partner with me with my knowledge and experience to start running shows in the area and then expand from there. And who knows where we'd go. That's always the dream, right? You just don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, I tell you, if you don't do anything, you're not going to go anywhere. So right. That was the dream, that was the passion. Unfortunately, it just didn't gel well together, and that's probably legally all I can say about that. But it's all good, man. It's all good. Here we are. Like I said, I'm back to Rize'N'CR8. Things are about to be popping off. I'm literally just going to be doing it by myself. The training facility is currently on hold until we find a place that has a good amount of AC, not just a swamp cooler that trying to fill a place with no insulation. A lot of the wrestling schools and camps are basically, motorhome bays, with a ring in there. And most of them I've been to. And so we had an actual 30 by 40 garage, but it's 130 degrees in there. We're right on the border of Death Valley, we're on the Arizona, California, Nevada border, literally in the tri-state area. And it's about the hottest place in America. We're just dipping down now under 100, but we're about 100, 115, 120 degrees the past 3 or 4 weeks in a row. You can't train with a non-insulated place with no AC. Our guys would be dropping dead, right? So we're in business for about 7 months, and for health reasons, above all else, I said, hey, you know what? Let's take a little break and let's regroup with a better facility. So we're in the middle of that. Training is coming back. We're accepting, pre-roll applications now. I've already got 6 guys that are ready to go. You can email us, rizencr8@gmail.com. That's RIZENCR, the number 8. Or go to rizencr8.com and get a hold of us through there. We got 7 social media accounts. We're all over the place. But yeah, man. So, right now, I'm focusing on running, starting to run shows, starting to promote shows. I'm just going to do it all myself, which is probably the way I should have done it to begin with. So it's all good. I'm also now accepting wrestling bookings while that's happening. But the RPW live events are being developed. We're building, sponsors and venue relationships right now. So, I can't announce any dates as of yet, but I'm very certain it will happen before the end of the year. So look for us to announce some show dates soon in the Mojave County area, either Kingman, Arizona, or Bullhead, Arizona. Like I said, right on the Laughlin, Nevada border. So there's about 90,000 people in the area. which kind of hindered us as a wrestling camp because it's a small area. We got Vegas about an hour and a half away. We got Phoenix 3 hours away. But we didn't have any guys training that came from there. They're all local or they moved here for the camp. And usually for a camp, you move there for the camp.
Right.
Like when I went to Flatbacks in Florida, it's a 3-month camp. So I went and got an Airbnb. I got injured on the last week. Not in the ring. I had a staph infection. That was man, I was in the ER. So I had to fly home. And Breezy and Spears were like, hey, just come back and redo it. So that was badass because I got to go through it twice basically. And then went back in 2025, got it done. So, but yeah, most of the time you're going to move for a camp and, moving out here, like I said, we don't have a huge population. And then there's the thing of we're not a school, so we don't take any drop-in guys. So it's a very big difference between a school and a camp. So, and the thing about that is, and if we could kind of go through that, most wrestling schools are drop-in style classes. So basically you could go and wrestling school, you're on your second day and your fellow students on month 10, and yet you're being taught the same class, no matter what your level of advancement is. That's ridiculous. You're just being honest. Like wrestling school sometimes will waste your time and money, whereas and you could train for years before you even get a match, if you even get a match. I remember the last time I was at a wrestling school, there was 22 people there, and I got about 30 seconds of ring time, and I drove an hour and a half and got a motel for that. So do you understand what I'm saying? I wanted to do something different. I wanted to build something that was more immersive, that was more one-on-one. I don't like more than 6 students at a camp because then everyone doesn't get enough ring time, and it's 12 weeks long. 3 days a week. With us, with RPW, Rize'N'CR8, you're working matches by the end of those 12 weeks. Probably by, depending on the level of advancement, how many people were in the class. I would say minimum by week 10. You're putting on your own matches. You're coming up with your own spots and moves, learning everything safely, understanding the structure of a match. We're just big on that. Like I said, getting your character ready, very immersive with that. Cutting promos, but yeah, working the matches in a structured, immersive, proven from day one to the last day. It's a training camp, so everybody trains at the same rate with an equal amount of ring time. That doesn't happen at wrestling schools. By the end of the camp, you'll be working matches, like I said, not only with your other students, but you can go out and get booked and coming up with your own matches. So knowing the proper structure and psychology is huge. That goes into a wrestling match. And when you graduate the camp, we got vast resources to help you get booked and looked at, like I said. So, and I mentioned some of those earlier. So, you start living your dream, wrestling around the world in as little as 12 weeks. And that's not a gimmick or an advertisement. Once we get back up, popping and running, I hope anybody that's interested will check us out, Rize'N'CR8.com. Because the training camp, it's badass, dude. It really is. Like I said, we're big on safety, and then it's day one to day end. So once you leave the place, you know how to work a match, you know how to put on a match. Right. You're not going to be the best in the world. You're going to be very minimal, but in 12 weeks, you can start working. And then from there, I highly, 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 highly recommend the extended training. I don't care if you're Ric Flair. I don't care if you're me. I learn something new every single day. So the extended training is really important. Once again, coming back those 3 days a week at a different time of day with your own free ring time to continue to learn. The guys that didn't graduate, hey, that's okay. If you need to keep working on something, you're not ready to perform, that's all right. I'll keep working with you. Come to the extended training. We'll get you there. At least we'll try. And, so we have, like I said, a structure of what we do. Now, what I did was I took the structure of Flatbacks, which is a WWE form system, and just repeated it with my own little flavor on it. And so, and Breezy even said, well, you guys could go back and start your own wrestling camp. And, we kind of laughed about it, but I did, and it wasn't even something I planned on doing. It's just, the thought came up and I thought, holy shit, why don't I just do what he did? And I had a lot of all the new stuff, the nuanced stuff, like spending time with Sapolsky. There was a lot of little things that we were talking about that other camps, other schools aren't going to know, and I got the giddy up as of 2025, like
Right.
little things they're looking for, things they're not looking for, the do's and the don'ts, not just looking for physically or mentally, but how you act, how you perform. I'll give you an example, like in the ring, how you hold your opponent and walk them around. There's an exact way they want you to do in NXT. The pins, how precise they are in that, and certain training aspects. And some of it could be pet peevy, but at the same time, it's, like Gabe said, it's literally what they either teach while you're there at the performance center or what they're looking for beforehand. So those things, I soaked it up as much as I could, locked up my brain so I can tell my students those same things. But yeah, and then being directly linked to Breezy is a very big thing. Very happy about that. So yeah, man. And then once again, if our guys are ready to start performing, like I said, my biggest thing right now, what I'm working on the most is getting ready to start promoting shows. So we can have a direct link for if you go through the camp, you can start working for us in our wrestling promotion. So that's another selling point. But like I said, we're not right now training, but we are accepting for the pre-enrollment for the reopening of the Rize'N'CR8 Professional Wrestling Training Camp.
Absolutely. So my buddy Adrian Whisper, he runs his promotion, and stuff like that. He does some training stuff, and he has this attitude of he's gonna be straight up with you. Now I get the presence that you would do the same. You're gonna be harsh. You're gonna be straight up. You're gonna be honest. And that's because, if I'm right, that's because of the safety of the people. Has nothing to do with you're afraid they're going to take your spot. You just want people to be safe. Is that the right? Am I getting that right?
That's 100%. So about a month before we, shut down and took this break, I was training somebody, young kid, awesome dude, but young, and he really, wanted to do this, and he's putting his heart and his physicalness in it, and he's a smaller dude, so the ring impacts him more, running the ropes, taking bumps, like, I'm guessing he might be about 130 pounds, but great dude. And there was an incident where during training, he landed very wrongly on a headlock takeover, and so it kind of hurt the guy that he was doing it with, and immediately he was like, hey, I'm not going to do it with him anymore. I said, hey, I totally understand. So I took the young man aside and explained to him, hey, because our biggest thing is safety, 100%. I was in California when somebody got very, very injured. It was an off the top rope spot. She ended up paralyzed. Emotional, man. Sorry. And so we're big on safety, 100%. And so at our camp, like I said, headlock takeover. And then I said, okay, no problem. I'll do it with him. So I talked to the young man and I was like, okay, this, you got it? He said, yeah, I got it. He did it again, landed me right on my head. And what upset me was he said he got it. Don't tell me you got it if you don't got it, and yeah, I mean, I was very upset. So then once again, we had to have a little meeting, and I took him aside, and his father was there, another great dude. And I was like, okay, look, guys, you have to be safe. You cannot hurt me or anybody else. You're going to hurt yourself. So it was just a situation where that was the first time I had to take somebody aside and be like, if you cannot do this, you cannot be here. You cannot hurt people. You cannot do this in this business. I cannot back you up. I cannot put my name on your ass and send you out the door, baby bird leaving the nest. I cannot help you get booked if you are not safe. That is number one, so,
right, no.
And then, once again, he just, he was excited. Sometimes with some people, and I've experienced this too, your body doesn't move the way that you're trying to move it. It just happens. Some people can't even run the ropes because the mind body connection is just not there. And that's okay. Like I said, it's not for everybody. But we ended up switching to a different move and a different spot because I was like, we can't have that happen again. So Later on, we'll circle around back to it and try it again. But then it made him scared to do it. So it's kind of hard because, he didn't want to be in that spot, and I felt bad for him too. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody. Shit just happens sometimes. Hey, this ain't ballet, brother. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but it's all good. Like I said, he's young. He'll get there. But things happen sometimes, and we just try and do it as safely as we can. And we walk through it multiple times and make sure everybody's got it. We film everything we do so we can watch it back on video. You learn a lot from that, let me tell you. Sometimes you don't know what your face looks like, and then you watch it back on camera and go, oh, I wasn't showing my emotion. I wasn't showing the money. I've learned a lot by just watching my stuff back. And of course, you're all your own worst critic, but we showed it to him on tape, and I said, okay, you see here where you did that, and you should have done it this way. Yeah, I got it. Anyway, so that's another reason we film everything we do. But yeah, we're big on safety, and that's our number one for sure.
Awesome. So we're gonna go into one of your probably favorite topics of conversation. One of your defining rivalries has been against the golden standard Cody Dreamheart.
Best thing about me and him is it kind of writes itself. Cody is a guy that lives in my area, and this is a small area of about 90,000 people in the county. Like I said, we're about an hour and a half out from Vegas. And I've only lived here about 7 years. I moved here from Oregon, born and bred, Oregon coast. Shout out to Tillamook, Oregon there. But here in Arizona, where I am now, have been for the past 7 years, I didn't know anybody. I don't go out and make friends, really. I'm kind of a homebody. I'm an introvert. And when I started this thing, I knew I was going to have an A1. I was going to have somebody that helps me show people physically how to do these moves. I cannot explain the landing or explain the little nuances of what happened if I'm in midair, or, like I have to have somebody do it in front of me with them so I can look at it, correct it, make sure it's right. I have to watch it. So sometimes I'll be involved with the training physically. Well, a lot of times actually, because I want to feel how they're doing it as well. Make sure they're not too stiff, make sure they're, sometimes people are just hardened up like a rock. And I've experienced so many different ways people are physically. It's kind of hilarious. But so, I do it with them, make sure they can do it. Then we move on to the next thing. But, me and Cody, I had to have an A1. I had to have an assistant coach. I had to have somebody there that could help me show everybody how to do everything. And I randomly seen this post on Facebook of him, which he didn't even do social media at the time. And it said on there that he had a couple months training at FSW in Vegas. I thought, cool. I went there too for a couple months as well. And I thought, hey, that's enough. If he knows how to bump, at least we can practice before everybody gets there for the camp. And so I latched onto him, brought him in. I was able to get a hold of him. He was, totally thrilled and excited to get this going. He radically changed his life and put everything on the line for this business. Unfortunately, his relationship ended. There was so much that he went through to do this with me, and it's an emotional thing. I love the guy. Yeah, man, golden standard, Cody Dreamheart, my first guy that ever went through the camp. Initially, when I started this business, people could look at it and go, well, you have no business training. You don't have a bunch of experience. Hey, I totally agree. But guess what? It's not a wrestling school. It's a wrestling camp. I'm literally just redoing the same model that you could do for twice as much money in Florida, and with the connections and everything. So I'm talking to these guys in Vegas, my friends I've known for years, and I'm like, hey, look, just to let you know, like, this is not a wrestling school.
Right.
I'm not a scammer. This is as legit as possible. We are a camp, the only camp in the area. Matter of fact, I think there's only about 6 wrestling camps in America that I know of. Excuse me. And so, without that national advertising presence, which I didn't have the money to do that, but I was able to get up and running. I put as well everything on the line, every cent I had. Went, kind of massive debt to get this started, as most promoters do, right? And so I started with the training camp because I knew I could do that. I didn't know a lot about promoting at the time. I do now. So we're going to start to do that. There's more money in that, just so everybody knows. But with the training camp, I also have some exciting news about that. I am talking to a few different legends in Vegas about latching onto the camp and being the official spokesperson, coming down and helping train for a day a week, and getting involved with that. It's only an hour and a half drive. So, looking forward to that. We're going to have an announcement with that. So, that combined with the training camp, I think we'll get more people. But Cody is my number one guy. He's the best guy that's went through the camp. He's amazing. I can't say enough things about him. Really great dude. I tell you what, when he comes to your show, he's going to be full dressed up, looking like Cody Rhodes. He's going to have the vest. He's going to be professional. He's going to shake your hand, looking in the eye. He is, the epitome of what I'm trying to make and push out there in the world. So it's perfect. I can slap the brand right on his ass and say, "Go get him, Tiger." So I'm talking to promoters as well initially and saying, "Hey, book my dude." And he's out there. He's getting bookings. He's putting on great matches. So if there was ever a question about Rize'N'CR8 and if this was legit or if this was going to work, now there's no question. There's guys in Vegas that really balked at it and actually sent me messages and were like, "What are you doing? You have no business." Now they're trying to book Cody. So ding, 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 brother. We have made it. We have arrived. The company is legit. I mean, once I'm training guys and they're going out there and working, there's no question. We're doing it now. So hopefully they understand the difference between the school and the camp and how much one-on-one time we try and give everybody. And so, at the end of those 12 weeks, if they're not ready, they're not ready. That's fine. That's why we have the extended training. Just keep coming in and doing it. But when you do get ready to go out there and do it, it's awesome to have a guy like Cody that, kind of puts the company name on his back. So really cool.
Actually, you've had some matches with Cody.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about the relaunching of the Rize'N'CR8. My question is, once Rize'N'CR8 is relaunched, you're going to give him a rematch?
Oh yeah, we've got. It's so funny because me and Cody have this rivalry history, and we film everything we do. So whether it's social media, like you could go to my Instagram, it's STD_wrestling. All the matches are there. What we would do is, like I said, when we have these open houses for the camp, me and Cody would showcase a match. So basically, people that are going there to see what the training's like, they can see the match and go, "Oh, okay, so if I go to this training, that could be me." And that was the reason for showcasing the match. So we had a lot of fun with it. We would, film the storylines and then put them up on social media. Cody's family would be there, chanting douche at me. It was great. So our first match, like I said, was a showcase. Cody had only been training like 15 days, but we had the first match down. Most people will never learn as fast as him. It's just, I've been around hundreds of people in this business in the ring with them, from California to Florida, and nobody's learned as fast as Cody, I can tell you. And so the second time at one of the open houses, we had another match, and that didn't have a real definitive clean. I think I had the victory, but we set it up to where that third match was a no DQ. And that was a lot of fun. We literally pulled out every weapon you could think of, from the pizza pan to the baking sheet to the kendo sticks to the we had a table that unfortunately broke before I got on it, but we improvised. Yeah, man, a great time. Like I said, we've had quite a few matches that have been filmed. They're available on social medias, and the website is social media as well, at Cody Dreamheart. But yeah, man, so it kind of writes itself. Look, I'm the trainer, he's the student. He got too big for his britches. I got to put him back down. In his eyes, I'm the stepping stone, or I turned on him because he was getting too big for his britches. I want him as my number two behind me. It's a total good heel move, and the other side of it, he's like, "I can't believe you turned on me. We loved each other. We're brothers. I've been with you since day one." So it's a great storyline that hasn't been able to have that payoff and that culmination. But Cody, coming for you, brother. We're going to do it. It's going to be great. And next time we do it, we'll have a pretty big crowd. The last time, like I said, we had these free shows out of this little garage, and we still had 75 people show up. So, you know, it's going to be cool, man. I'm pretty excited about it.
So I read about it and I looked about it. Talk to me about this match that you had with where you handcuffed Cody Dreamheart to the ropes and forced him to watch you beat his brother, Travis Hopkins. Many fans would call you a coward, not the truth.
Hey, you got it.
You care to share more on that?
Oh yeah, man. You got to do what you got to do. They deserved every ounce of that. You know, that's the thing. Cody, I came for your family. I literally went on the property, gave him some kendo stick shots. I don't care if he's autistic or not. We did what we had to do, brother. And choking him in front of you was a highlight of my career. So keep that in mind, Cody. Yeah, baby, that was a good time. Like I said, we get pretty immersed in what we do. So as that continues, as the promotion expands, guys that I have booked, you know, we're going to start filming some actual storylines. And a lot of times in independent wrestling, you don't have that. But show to show, there should be some continuous continuity between the storylines, the arcing storylines, and the Sarsa method that I try and write for TV. So, yeah, man, Rize'N'CR8, it's not dead. I feel like we're expanding. But, you know, like I said, we're just in the meantime, we're having a little break and we're getting that money for those shows. So I can't wait to get it done.
I hope we get to hear about that on another podcast or see that on video. I'm looking forward to the next time Rize'N'CR8 as STD against your buddy Cody Dreamheart. So I'm looking forward to that. So let's, what I like to call, first of all, thank you guys for watching. If you guys are on YouTube, please hit the follow button. Go follow Joey Rogers on his Facebook channel, and I'll let him share his social medias at the end of the show. But let's start going in with my rapid fire questions.
All right.
Best memory in the wrestling ring so far for you?
I can tell you it is well, it's two different things actually. Number one, being in there with my buddy Cody and having an audience watch what we do. I thought that was great because I felt really good about being able to train somebody that's going to actually do something in this business. And he's a great guy on top of that. So being in the ring with him and having that moment where I kind of looked around and said, oh, this is badass. Another time I was in Florida and I just stopped for a minute and said, damn, dude, what are you doing? Like, look around. And I looked around the ring and I was in the ring with Tyler Breeze, Colton Gunn, Mercedes Monet, and Xia Li. And I thought, and it was just the five of us or whatever. And I was like, all right, this is what it's about. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've had a few different in-ring experiences where I literally just stopped and soaked it in for a minute. And I think that's really important, you know, for what we do. And here's the thing. You got to enjoy the journey and the ride. There's really no stopping point as far as like, I don't think of anything as, oh, I got to get here and hit my goal. Like, you know, sure, you're on the road towards something, but it's always going to be on the road, you know? So just enjoy your journey because you don't know when it's going to end. You don't. You could get injured, you know, you could quit tomorrow. You just enjoy this ride. And that goes with life as well, not just with wrestling. You're going down the stream, you know, whether you're in a car, you're in a boat, whatever analogy you want. You don't know when the road's going to end, but it's all about enjoying the journey. It's all a journey. So, you know, in wrestling, you don't know where you're going to go. You don't. You could go all the way to the top, or you could, you know, wrestle on the indies, and that's fine too. And enjoy your life, enjoy the dream. If you want to get in this business, I recommend getting off your ass and doing it. I don't care what age you are. I don't care how big you are. You can always lose weight. You can always look better. You can always go tan. You can always, whatever the case, right? You can always save money. You can always move somewhere else, live in an RV, whatever the case, right? If you want to do it bad enough, you know, we're here. So go ahead and do the pre-enrollment. We'll be ready. So.
What would you say to those lazy wrestlers?
Lazy as in they don't want to do a lot in the ring, or they don't really care to go out and try and get themselves booked type thing?
Both. I believe that I see that happening on the indies today.
Yeah. So, gosh, okay, I'll give you an example. I worked with somebody that had been in the business I can't remember what he had said. It was between 5 and 10 years, and he wasn't aware of like the structure of a match. Like for example, you start with the shine and then go all the way towards the finish or whatever, false finish before the finish. And anyway, it doesn't always have to be exact, but there is a formula that we follow. And he had no idea. He just thought we'd go out there and hit each other and do moves. And it's like, okay, and then I'll do this, and then you do stuff, and then, but it's like, no, hold on, like we're building something. We're telling a story through the match. The match is a story. That's why you start with this and you go with this, and depending on the story of the match. If the story of the match is we've never met each other, we have no buildup, I'm not gonna run and attack you because we have no buildup of emotion, heel or not. That's just not how it's gonna work. So the story of the match is important, and I take this very serious as far as that. So I don't care what's going to happen at the end, but I'm going to try my best to tell the proper story. I'll ask the promoter, what story are you trying to tell? What are you looking for? What do you want out of me? What do you want out of the STD? Because I'll give it to you. You want a 2-minute squash? Do you want a 20-minute back and forth? Let me know. We'll get it done. But I have ran into people on maybe not considered lazy, but they just didn't know. And that happens a lot in this business. It depends on where you've been trained, where you get booked. I've had people close to me that literally don't like to work the internet, and they just want somebody else to do it, and they're like, hey, help me out. And it's like, well, you got to help yourself out. Like what are you doing? Like, you're not even trying. No promoter is going to hit you up and say, hey, I saw your 2-minute match from 4 years ago. I'd like to. That's not going to happen. So laziness as far as marketing, that's my pet peeve. If you want to do this business, if you want to get into it and really make something out of yourself, you got to market the shit out of yourself. That's my biggest advice.
Absolutely. Okay, your ultimate dream opponent, past or present?
Past would be Bret Hart. Present would be CM Punk. We have a lot of similarities, I feel, and I don't actually know Phil, but I can tell you just from watching him throughout my life, I feel like that would work pretty well, at least in my eyes. I would love to have a match with Punk. That's kind of my dream opponent, I guess, if I had one.
Could you handle him on the mic?
Hell no. nobody can, bro. Nobody can. No. I would do my best, that's for sure. It's right. I can handle a lot of people, but probably not CM Punk.
He's amazing on the mic.
He's amazing.
I'll ask you this. I usually ask what's your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, but I'm curious to have your Mount Rushmore of promo cutters.
That's an excellent question. And, like I said, I could talk about wrestling all day. CM Punk, definitely right up there. Another guy that I think gets a lot of praise, but not enough, is Roddy Piper. I'm like I said, I'm from Oregon. Loved Piper. Loved that he was a local guy. Watched Portland wrestling growing up all my life, the regional territory there. Piper was the man. He was like the Robin Williams of wrestling, as far as yes. God dang. Also, I would say Flair, because and sometimes they might be somewhat repetitive, but he kind of had his own little formula, and that aggressive and the woo and the taking off the clothes, like he kind of evolved what he did throughout his career. But Flair was amazing because he had so many lines that were memorable. You see these clips of these football players like doing his lines from the 80s, and Flair is a household name, and he talked people into the building. It doesn't matter what kind of match he had, he was able to talk them right in. So another guy, Dusty Rhodes, one of my favorites, and I think he was probably, from what I hear, probably should be on the Mount Rushmore of people that could train people, train people how to do promos. From what I hear, that was everybody loved him. So never got to meet him. If I had to think of somebody else, because there's a ton, there's a ton of them out there. as far as active, let me think of somebody that's active I really like. Um, because honestly, I'm gonna have to go with MJF.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that's probably my my final pick. I mean, The Rock obviously should be up there.
Right.
Jericho was great. There's guys that had their periods or could get it done amazingly. That you can literally sit back and go, man, I don't know if anybody else can even touch this guy.
Right. Right.
And so that was pretty cool.
All right. 3 words that would describe your in-ring style.
Um, Cutthroat. Um, gosh, I would say slithery, and then and then I would say counter aggressive. Um, Not aggressive by nature, but aggressive by opportunity and countering. So, you kind of have to watch my matches to see what I mean about that. But a very slithery style, almost Jake Roberts like, in the sense of waiting for something to happen to take my strike. Very snake like. So, um, and I like to hit the Douché nozzle out of nowhere, and that's a Taz mission for anyone that doesn't know. So, yeah, baby.
All right. Yeah, I just had what is the main mission for Rize'N'CR8 in pro wrestling?
Oh, that is a great question. So, right now, like I said, the training is coming back. We're accepting wrestling bookings. RPW live events are being developed. We're building the sponsors and the venue relationships. But I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What is the main mission of Rize'N'CR8?
Oh, the main mission, yeah. So basically, it's twofold. It is pumping out the best possible professional wrestlers we can from the training camp, doing the absolute best we can to make new stars. And our main mission at the moment is to start running shows, promoting shows, being the biggest and the best promotion in the area, and then eventually the world. I think big. When I was talking about goals, I don't have endpoints. It's just let's do the best we can with what we have and then see what happens. And amazing things have happened in my life, things I would never even think could happen, whether it's little random stories or nuanced things. But the people I've met so far, the experiences I've had, the things I've done in the ring, I could literally look at myself as a kid and be like, high five, we did something. Even if it stops tomorrow, I got up off my ass and started to do something. You can't do anything until you get up and start. And so, am I going to be in the Hall of Fame? Right now, probably not. You know what I mean? But doing the best we can. So that's developing Rize'N'CR8 professional wrestling in the sense of coming and watching the live shows and the storylines and the arcs that we'll create, and also coming to our soon to reopen training camp, which, like I said, we're going to try and pump out new stars.
What do the fans mean to STD?
Everything. We are nothing without them. I'm a fan. We're all fans. And without the fans, you have nothing. And especially when it comes to independent wrestling, there's not a lot of money in it, And as a promoter, I can tell you, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it for the love of what we do and wanting to be a part of everything. Having my hands dipped in the pot, whether it's creative or producing or setting things up, and there's so much creativity that goes into this business, especially in the role and position that I'm in right now. So I'm very grateful for what I'm have done and am about to do. We have a great support system. We have a great team. There's this big thing lately about AJ's kid and paying dues, and so yeah, man, I believe in paying your dues. That's how I was brought up. That's I mean, whether it's 20 years ago or now, all the trainers will probably tell you that same thing. And it might change, it might become different. And of course, it's all about who you know for some of that stuff. But I would expect my guys to help set everything up for free. And, whether it's the ring or working security or being a gear runner during the matches, like I would hope that they would want to. And
Right.
everyone that I have come into contact with in my business, they do want to. And they understand it's not for the money, you know, and I will pay them when I can, if that's possible. But of course, the workers get paid first, and then, you know, the venue and everything else. So, you know, I'll pay my guys if that comes to that. But the guys that are training, or even the guy, I get hit up a lot with guys that just want to be a part of what we do. They don't want to train. They just want to be a part of it. They want to be backstage. They want to understand how it works. They want to help create storylines and characters. And that's okay for the right person, but I can't just say, okay, everybody come on in. You know, they have to have a role. They have to have a certain reason while they're there. And but we have a great team right now. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. It's awesome.
Awesome. So next two questions. One is one of my foster kids related. One comes from my wife. So
Awesome.
foster kid related.
All right.
Would you rather get hit by a chair or step on the Legos I leave behind on the ground?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. It probably depends on the mood I'm in. If I'm in the ring and the adrenaline's running, yeah, I'll take a chair shot. I've given a couple, haven't had one yet. But yeah, that's doable. I hate Legos, man. Luckily, my kiddo just turned 21, so we don't have any Lego problems. But yeah, I remember back in the day stepping on those and the words that came out of your mouth, right? So that's a hilarious question, but I would say I'd probably rather take the chair shot because that adrenaline would be flowing through those veins.
My wife is one of my biggest supporters on our podcast. She will tell me, keep on going when it got tough. I lost my dad in November and I got tough. I almost quit.
Sorry to hear that.
My wife says, aren't your parents the ones that were some of your biggest supporters? And I'm like, yeah, but they're not here no more. And she says, your mom and dad would want you to keep going. So she loves the fact that I do this.
That's great.
But she is not a huge fan of wrestling in itself.
Right.
I have a TikTok video. I wish I could have got it up and I could have played it for you. She watched I think it was a Royal Rumble with me or something, and there was an obvious miss. Like it was on TV. He came this far from hitting the guy. It was so dumb looking. So she went into a tirade of wrestling is fake as fuck.
Oh no. So yeah, all it takes is one botch, right?
Right. So coming from a guy that's in the business, that's taking the bumps, that's doing it, that's has his own center. Tell me, in your rendition, fake as fuck or not fake?
I'll tell you, fake is a dirty word. It's almost because it's kind of a derogatory thing, and I understand, like my partner or my kid or whatever, they've said fake before, and it's not for everybody. I understand, but fake is a dirty word because like you said, the bumps, the bruises, the injuries, it's all real. Everything we do, it's not ballet. It's not for everybody. And physicality wise, definitely not fake, and we do the best we can as safely as possible, but you're still taking those bumps on wood and steel with a little bit of padding, and or going outside the ring or hitting the ring post or getting hit with a weapon depending on the match. Like, definitely not fake, but I totally understand where she's coming from, so that's really hilarious. My partner Brittany, she's a huge supporter, and my parents are too. My mom Martha, huge supporter. Couldn't have ran the business without her, actually. Lots of support, like I said, but nobody really likes it. Nobody watches it, you know what I mean? Like Brittany, my partner, she's like, not into it at all, but she understands why I like it. She understands, so, but no, not fake as fuck.
All right. So now this is about you and about where fans can come and find you. So when and where can fans officially expect to see a live RPW show? Is it in the future? Is it 2026?
If I put on my crystal ball, my Udalala here, I'm gonna say by the end of the year. I would almost guarantee that. And like I said, my attention, my focus, everything is going towards that. I'm building the relationships. I went and looked at every venue. I'm talking to the Chamber of Commerce. I'm I've done it all as far as running around town and trying to get those sponsors and getting everything set up and going. I came up with an entire system for sponsoring where the guardrails, I build these 3x3 from wooden pallets, paint them black, and then they have a 3x3 banner in the front of a local business. And then so, I can sell 21 spots of that around the ring and actually 40 something if I do both sides. So I came up with a sponsor panel package. If anybody's interested, go to Rize'N'CR8.com. Local business, national business, doesn't matter. We can put you on one of those panels. So, expected, I would say by the end of the year, yeah, we start doing shows for sure. Like I said, just Rize'N'CR8.com, Mojave County area. If anybody's wanting to get her done, hour and a half away from Vegas, 3 hours from Phoenix, right on the tri-state border. Also, our social medias will be the first plug of anything that goes down, anything new, any announcements for the live dates. Facebook, it's at Rize'N'CR8. Instagram, it's Rise_N_CR8. Like I said, you can go to my stuff, STD_wrestling, and that's YouTube and Instagram and Threads. And then on Facebook, I have the most followers, like 3,500 or whatever. And that's actually supposed to be my personal Facebook, but that's facebook.com/joey.rogers.3346. So that should probably change, but that was initially supposed to be my personal Facebook, but everybody in wrestling is coming at me there, which is fine. But generally, wrestling wise, I keep an Instagram for wrestling, a Facebook for personal, but they kind of blended. I am two people at all times, and I have to turn that gear and switch it on, and all of a sudden, come the STD, it's just like right here in the head, it's a little switch. You know what I mean? So depending on what I'm promoting and what I'm doing and who I'm in front of, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. So this is Joey Rogers with the G, no D. I'm Scott Rogers with the D. You can make your assumption of who the better guy is. I'll give it to my guest, of the night, the STD.
I appreciate it, brother.
Mr. Stephen, the Truth Douché, or some would call you Douche.
Yes, sir.
It's been an absolute blast having you on the show tonight.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to end the show with giving you the floor.
I appreciate it, man.
What do you have to say to the fans? What do you have to say to your buddy Cody Dreamheart? I'm gonna have you close the show. After you're done, I'll hit the exit music. Don't go nowhere. Stay on. I want to talk to you after off the show. So, Huge Pop Entertainment. I am turning the mic over to the STD. He's gonna close the show. He's gonna tell the fans and Cody Dreamheart what's on his mind. And I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Steven, the floor is yours, man. Go ahead.
Appreciate you, Scott. Had a blast. I'm going to be a fan of this podcast and watch from here on out. I expect everybody to do the same. Excellent, man. Thank you for having me. And yeah, Rize'N'CR8 is going to rise and create. RIZENCR8.com. Also, like I said, all the social medias. I am Joe Rogers, but I'm also your STD, Stephen the Truth Douché, Cody Dreamheart. I'm coming for you, brother. Pretty soon we're going to have shows. We're going to have action. We're going to have it all. So stay updated. Stay on top of things. Thank you, Scott. I'm taking off out of here. And that is the absolute goddamn truth.
Huge Pop Entertainment. We're out.